This session is to talk about something very important in IT. It's really a game changer, which is called GitOps. And it will be mainly 10 to 15 minutes about, generally speaking, what is GitOps. Just a few slides, not too much, but it's still very important to understand what it is, what is the use of GitOps, and what are the benefits and how to implement it. And afterwards, in 45 minutes, I will go through a live workshop where we'll start from scratch on a new Kubernetes cluster, and we'll see how we can achieve everything with GitOps in a very easy way. So it's a live workshop. It's something we will do it like together. And for those who are interested, I can share an invitation to the lab if you want to play with it. And just before we go, I'm Bertrand Thomas. I'm a solution architect. I started 20 years ago and more as a software engineer. But after that, I kind of did everything around the DevOps loop. So from specifications, Scrum Master, to development, design, tech lead, testing, operation, monitoring, support. And even I was also, I worked for software vendors and even got the opportunity to be part of the sales organization. So I'm very, very interested in everything regarding IT, helping companies. Currently, I'm between jobs. I'm evaluating opportunities. But what I do now is what I like a lot. It's sharing and also feel free to share questions and also challenge me. I need to also keep improving. So feel free to ask any question, or if you don't agree with me or anything like this. So here we go. Reason for GitOps, and like for everything new or anything we want to use or to learn, it's very, very important to understand why we do it. And in particular, in this use case, I really want to take a step back and just see, okay, what's the big picture for us? If you're part of the IT, well, it should be the big picture for everyone. And it's very kind of simple. We have some workloads to run. So it's either a web application, it can be an API, it's something like a regular cron jobs. It can be some integration between systems. We want to run databases. We want to, well, any kind of workload. Our goal is to sometimes develop it if you are part of a development team or an open source project, or run it if you're part of operation. But basically, our goal is to run workloads. It's kind of our thing. And to do it, obviously, we cannot run it off thin air, so we need an infrastructure. And on this, it can be whatever infrastructure. It can be in the cloud, like AWS. It can be on your company data center with on-prem or an hybrid approach with the cloud. It can be bare metal, like I've got Raspberry Pi behind me. It can be on Raspberry Pi. It can be on the home laboratories. It can be in the edge. It can be in a spaceship. It can be whatever. Our goal is to run our workloads somewhere, which also depends on what we want to do with the workload. And what we have to do is to install this workload, update it, manage it, like security updates, a new feature, whatever. And we need to control it, making sure it's running okay. And GitOps is this. It's just, okay, it's a simple way. It's kind of the best way currently to manage how your workload is installed, is running, is configured, and on your infrastructure. So this is at a very high level. GitOps is about managing your workload. And even more, you can even manage more than this, but the main idea is it's a simple way, but yet an holistic approach. So we are not going to say, okay, I will do only this piece of elements. No. We will manage an environment with everything that you need in this environment. And we need it, and we do it very easily with small lines of YAML. And we will have something kind of best in class. So there are different ways to do GitOps, but like if we look at the best way to implement GitOps, we will achieve, finally we have something to meet the requirements And currently you can do this with traditional infrastructure as code approach, but you will certainly need to pay something from a service from an external provider or software vendor or whatever. Here, finally, with GitOps, we have a standard, something that is simple, that is open source and free, to meet kind of the excellence in operation and management and workflow, and also it helps a lot with DevOps. So saying this, so I will say a lot. Let's see if we compare with the existing solution, and I like this diagram from VMware because it relates to my career. So I started 20 years ago. So it's a very nice snapshot because at the time we were doing a lot of things manually. And then we understood that, okay, manual errors and not efficient. So we started creating scripts. And then came infrastructure as code and DevOps mindset of automating and focusing on the added value. And I started on Puppet. And then came the cloud and also the value of provisioning resources with Terraform. And also great tool like Ansible. And then we got GitOps. And it's really kind of, GitOps is the next step. So I wanted to show this because it's really kind of, we keep evolving, improving. GitOps is really the next step. This is very interesting. It can work with the others, but it's really kind of like if you are looking for the best in class and like the most mature, or maybe not mature, but more complete, this is the GitOps part. And another way to look at it, it's and obviously in this session I will speak a lot about cloud native Kubernetes because it's kind of also the best way to run workload. If you have a workload where you want to have full control, either because you develop it or you want to integrate it and have full control, but still want to have high velocity, Kubernetes, cloud native and Kubernetes is kind of the best way to do it. And something I wanted to show, it's you will get many free layers, kind of. You still have the infrastructure, obviously it needs to run somewhere. And then we've got Kubernetes. So this is the container orchestration. This was huge, also a huge revolution in IT. So you got the Kubernetes cluster, which is very interesting because it's an abstraction with the standard from the infrastructure. So you don't have to care per se from what's running it, but still it needs to be done right. But if you are looking at the workload and how to manage workload, which is our main focus today, you don't have to care about this and you can go very fast. And then you've got your workload. So this is kind of very basic layers. And what is very interesting with GitOps, if you look at the tools or the way to manage it, you can see that GitOps will take kind of most of the part. You will still need some traditional infrastructure as code like Ansible, Terraform or other, but it will be very short and narrow, and it will be focused on where it's really needed, which is really great because this kind of code is complicated because you really need to do it right. You need a developer mindset and at the same time someone with a very strong infrastructure expertise, which is kind of very hard to find and very hard to be. So we narrow it to only the places where we want it to be, and then we can do almost everything with GitOps and also with Cluster API, which is a sub-project of Kubernetes, where we can extend GitOps to manage clusters. It's not the goal of this session, but it's kind of also magic behind. Just this picture is just to explain that you can, if you are a leader or you are a manager or not technical person, please understand that if you use GitOps, things will get easier, cheaper, and everything. Because you can, instead of investing a lot of time, energy, and money to build something very complicated to manage your infrastructure, here we go, you got something very easy, like a standard now in the industry, and that does the job for you. So very, very interesting on this part. You will gain a lot by moving forward to the GitOps approach. But then, still to be fair, GitOps is about managing the infrastructure in a Git repository. And there are two approaches. The traditional one, from like, for example, Ansible and Terraform, is more a push approach, where you push meaning that you will define your infrastructure with code sometimes specific to like the technology you are using, like Terraform. you will put it in a Git repository. So Git is a version control system. It's really the standard. You will define it in some files, and then you will have a change you make in Git will trigger something like in a pipeline, and that will make an update. But the flow is from an action from Git that will push it to the environment, which kind of works, but you will never have one pipeline to manage everything. So you will have a lot of pipeline sometime on the same environment. So kind of complicated to orchestrate all of this. And also, there is no control or any potential drift on what's running on your system. So it's kind of okay, but the pool approach, it's much more interesting because we go the other way around. We have something in an environment which will be here a Kubernetes cluster, and this will look at the definition. It will compare, okay, where I'm supposed to be compared to where I am, and it will make the change. So much more interesting, the pull approach, but still understand that when you speak about GitOps, potentially you speak about the push approach and traditional approach. Here, today, what I want to show you is the best in class, which is the pull approach in Cloud Native with Kubernetes. But just before I start with the workshop, and bear with me, I'm almost done with the slides. There is a schema I really like to explain how the GitOps pull approach works. It's this one. And it's very interesting to understand that if there are two streams to make a change, and when we deliver a workload, obviously we will be using artifacts that are built. And in the GitOps, nothing changed on this part. You will do the same thing, you will create an artifact, you will publish it. So no change on this. The big change, it's you will use another repository to store the definition of where you globally you define the state where you want to have your environment to be. And the major change or the thing that makes everything possible is coming from the Kubernetes approach. So Kubernetes container orchestration, it's 15 years of Google that wrote something from their experience, so 15 years of experience. And one of the massive change in Kubernetes, it's a system that is self-managed. Basically, when we work with Kubernetes, we don't say, hey, do this, do this, do this. We say, we will define, we say to Kubernetes, hey, I would like to have my web application to run. That's all. And then there are control loops that will look at the definition, that will look at what's existing, and will make the change. And this is great. This is completely a game-changing feature because we can extend it to the GitOps approach and to Git repository. Meaning that here, Kubernetes stores it in a database, which is etcd by default. But with a Kubernetes controller, we will be able to synchronize something in Git with the expected state in the database in Kubernetes. And it's great. This makes everything possible. So instead of pushing commands to Kubernetes, so like I will be watching constantly Kubernetes and something needs to be changed and say no. I define something very simple, the expected state, and then I say off we go, do your job, and Kubernetes will make sure we are at least it will try to make this. So this is very interesting, and you have two different flows. One which is building new artifacts, and the second one is to operate. And going further, if you are wondering about CI/CD and how teams are working on everything, if nothing changed per se, like on the CI/CD part, so continuous integration, continuous delivery, still the same. Nothing changed here. We are supposed to deliver high quality products. That's nothing changed here. So we work as a team. We deliver high product like any open source project. But and there are still people running it. So we've got the build and run, and it's two different mindsets, two different type of people, potentially 2 different teams, because it's really 2 different way of working around IT. And it's important we have different roles, because one is really to build features, high quality features. The other one is making sure the environment are running okay. But thanks to GitOps, so we are still the same thing. Maybe the difference for you, it's in terms of artifacts. We are cloud native, so we are expecting container images, not only the build of the application, but really something that can run anywhere, like in a cloud native approach. On the run part, what is very great with GitOps, people are autonomous. So people in charge of the environments have full responsibility, full ownership on what's running. But here, it's very simple, thanks to GitOps. So they pick what they want, they make the changes. Still, we can plug it. It's very easy to do continuous deployment. Every time there is a new version of good quality, you can deploy it. It's work. But what is great, it's we eliminate everything, every frustration or potential conflict or any code complexity with something very easy and clear responsibility on both sides. So, and just before going on the lab, you may hear, or if you want to have a try, there are 2 main GitOps tools, which are Argo CD and Flux. Both are part of the CNCF. There is another one I will be using because I like the tool that is coming with. But if you want to have a try, this is, you can look at Argo CD and Flux, very good tool. But I will be demonstrating the third one. So if you are like a GitOps expert and you are wondering what you will get from this session, it can be either because you've never seen Fleet, and so I will show it to you, or because I will use a platform to do it. So let's go. So before we jump, what I will show you, it's not running on my machine. It's not running on my cloud spaces. I'm using a virtual lab platform, which is the industry standard. It's used by almost all software vendors. If by the past you use, if you used Katacoda, or if you are using Killer Coda, or maybe you have a membership in Code, it's kind of the same approach. But Instruqt is really dedicated to enterprise, so to companies and with enterprise features, enterprise support. I was lucky enough last year to make a study for SUSE for the rodeos and workshop and see what would be best. And I did a study and I did the migration to Instruqt and also created a lot of stuff. And it's really nice because what you will see, it's something that is completely autonomous and it's not running on my machine. It's something that has created for me. So I will just... oops. Okay, sorry. Oops. I did a spoiler. So here it is. So this is my... I'm sorry. I didn't refresh the right page. So this is Instruqt. It's basically, so it's a SaaS solution. I'm connected to Instruqt.com with my account on my organization. What I did is already started a track. So it's called a track, but you can see it as a course or a scenario. I created it because I didn't want for you to wait, because every time someone creates one, it will provision virtual machine, and I also added some installation scripts, so it takes a few minutes. It's not much, but I didn't want for you to wait. And what you will see here, it's the user experience you'll get if you are interested and get an invite, or if you are using Instruqt with other things. You may be familiar if you are using some other labs. So here we go. I will go start. And basically, we will go through challenges, which are kind of steps. And every time we will make something new. So here, what I just want to say, there are 2 VMs that are created, and it's by design. When you start working with Kubernetes clusters, you are not going to have only one. You will have a lot of them, and it's best to have at least one cluster to manage the others. It's kind of the Lord of the Rings. You've got one ring to rule them all. It's kind of the same here. It's kind of a pattern. If you are going through the Kubernetes approach, you need a management cluster to manage the other ones, because you will need management applications to run it correctly. And if you are considering cluster API or already using cluster API, well, it's the same word, management. So what you see here, it's what was installed. So it's provisioned on Google Cloud. I'm using Ubuntu. So I've got 2 VMs. You can see not a lot. Well, I did more capacity on the second one, but it's not needed as a matter of fact. So we don't need much to run it. I use 2 different Kubernetes distributions just to show that it's not dependent on one. And Kubernetes is a standard, and then you need the distribution to run it. So I use K3s, which is very known, and something very robust, RKE2. And the only thing I did, it's because by default, Kubernetes is from the command line, and you need to be admin to do it. So it's also a very good practice to use a management application for Kubernetes cluster. And I like very much Rancher. So it's a UI and does much more than just a UI, but I wanted to have something visual for you. It's much better than just command lines. And it comes with the GitOps tool by default. You can disable it if you don't want, but I kind of like it. And I also wanted to show that GitOps is not about the tool. It's also very, very important if you are going through the GitOps approach. Everything you do, even if at some point you want to change, like you are on Flux and you want to go to Argo CD, it's very easy. No vendor locking on this. So this is why I also wanted to show like you can use even another one if you want. And GitOps means we need to store data in Git. And so this is why I installed Git here. I could have installed GitLab, but GitLab is not recommended 100% on Kubernetes. And also it's relatively heavy for what I want to do. So GitHub is very nice. You will see it, the user interface is kind of GitHub. So this is what I installed. And on the workload cluster, I didn't do anything. I just installed the cluster and that's all. And that's our challenge. If you are up to it, the goal is to run web application and do whatever to secure, observe it. But I will not do anything directly to the cluster or to the machine itself. And that's the purpose of GitOps. So our challenge for this lab is to install everything that we need, like all application, dependencies, requirements, everything, without any action on the cluster or on the machine. And we will only use Git and a GitOps tool to do it. So off we go. So in the first step, what I just wanted to show, so we can query. So here you see the instruction on the left, and you can see multiple tabs on the right. We've got the command line. I can execute, and I can also execute directly from a click something. And also we have Rancher, so what I talked about. So if you're not familiar, it's open source, and everything that I will be using or showing you doesn't require any subscription or license or to pay, whatever. It's something you can reproduce very easily on your side. And every command line are displayed on this, and also everything that I used to set up this lab is available in the Git repository that is public, which is, I will put the link in the YouTube video. So it's a UI. I will log in. I will just be careful with my eyes and go dark. And here Rancher, so I will not spend time on this, but just to show you, the goal is to administrate Kubernetes cluster. So I've got 2. One is called local. It's by default. It's the one used to run Rancher. It's the management cluster. And the other one is for the demonstration, so it's basically the workload cluster. And what is very interesting, we can go inside and see what's running. So we have some information, we can see the events. And what I wanted to show you, it's what's running. So here I'm looking at what's running, and basically the default components from the Kubernetes distribution, which is K3s, plus GitHub, my application, something to manage certificates, and Rancher. And another way to see it, I can look at the ingresses. So by default, Kubernetes, you cannot reach something that is running in Kubernetes. It's a good security by design. to make it available. If you have a web application to make it available outside of Kubernetes, you need to define an ingress. And we can see we have two of them, Rancher and GitHub. This is what we want. And it's not, so it's in my lab, in virtual machine, but I can access it from outside. Like if I do this. So you can see it's no magic. It's not a video. It's really, you can access it if you want. And then, so we'll go next. So here we saw the management one. Up. And again, I will just check on the workload. Just what I wanted to show you, it's in my workload, my demonstration cluster, just to show that there is nothing installed. Obviously, there are some applications that comes from the Kubernetes distribution, but I didn't do anything, and that's the goal. The goal is to have here a lot of stuff and see how we do it in a GitOps way. So the first thing, when you want to start with GitOps, the first thing will be to choose obviously your show your strategy, use your GitOps tool. So here I chose, but it's not very important here. And at some point you will need to see, oh, okay, I need to store something in a Git repository. So if you are using GitLab, GitHub, Azure DevOps, whatever, you will need to define a repository, a Git repository. So what I just show you here, it's we will log into the UI in GitHub. And we can see there is nothing. I will just change to go dark again. So you can see there is nothing here. It's really start from, so I'm starting from scratch. And the first thing you need to do is to create a repository. So it's what I do here from the command line. It's much easier. And we can see, oh, I created an admin demo Kubernetes repository. So this is the first thing, create a repository. After there are different strategies, but here we will go fast and furious. We will do everything on main. But and I can see the cool thing about doing demonstration. I can say I'm John Wick. And also what is very interesting in this lab, just for people who will using it, you can use also a code editor to see what's running. So I created a repository on the remote server, but I've got something local, which is nothing by default, which is what I want. So first thing to do is create a Git repository. The second one, or the kind of first thing, is to install a GitOps tool, which we have. And now let's go with building what we want to do. So the first thing we will want to have is if you are using Helm, you may have to install some custom resource definition. By default, Kubernetes ships with a lot of objects and definitions. There are some components that require some additional elements, definitions, and it's very best practice to do it before the other one. So it's a layer that is usually called Bootsrap. So we need to install custom resource definitions on my cluster, and I will use Helm to do it, which is a package manager and also a package, an application management for Kubernetes. And to do this, we will do it the GitOps way. So I will up here. What I do is to create a file, a definition, and I will show it afterwards. I'll create one for, so I've got two that I need to install before I install the actual applications. So here, if I go in Git, I can see that I made two commits, and now I got two files. So I'm using really the definition, the expectation from the cluster is defined in a file. And you can see it's very basic, it's YAML, so very easy to read. It's hierarchical. The only very sensitive part, please be careful with the indentation. And if you are going in GitOps, mainly, or maybe, you will have issues with this. Please make sure to, the indentation, like, is very key for this one. So what I do, in this case, I'm using Helm repository. So it's an official one for this application. I'm setting the version I want to have. I define the release name, and it's very basic, but it's just enough. I'm saying, okay, it's like I'm using a store somewhere, and I'm saying, okay, I want this version. So this is the first one, and the second one is different because there is no official repository to do it. So what I did is to download the file. This is the official recommendation. So I downloaded the file here, so it's a massive one. And what I say, it's okay, I've just defined the basic one and it will use the raw file. And basically, any GitOps tool is the same. You can use any way to define what you want. It can be raw file, like Kubernetes manifest files. You can use customize, you can use Helm, you can use whatever you want. Well, as long as it's a standard for Kubernetes. And once I've got this, in Rancher, I will use Fleet. So in Rancher, Fleet is this little chip here. And I will create what is called a Git repository. And again, this is specific to Rancher and Fleet, but if you are using Argo CD or Flex, it will be the same thing. You need to make a link, to make a definition in the GitOps tool to link with the Git repository. That's all. Yeah, you will see it's very easy. So what I do here, I give it a name, so it's Bootsrap, the first layer. Then I put an URL. The branch is main. There is not a authentication, it's public. Well, you should put one, but for me, I don't care in this demonstration. And then we can read anything, but I think it's much better to use something very specific. So here you can see it's exactly what just show you the path to the two folders. And here there are some interesting things you can use labels or stuff like this, but on this one I will go very fast, so I will say. And here we go. So what I say, okay, for this cluster, I need the definition is in this repository. And you can see it was installed. I didn't do anything. I just made the link. And I can go inside and see that, okay, it shows that there were two bundles, two paths. And I can look at the resources. And I can see everything is green, active. So it means, this is really very important here. It means that what I define is what is active actually in the cluster. So it's kind of huge because it's usually when you do infrastructure as code, while you run your stuff, it's okay or not, but what's the state afterwards, you don't have it. So this is very interesting. So we did the first layer. Great. So maybe you think, oh, it's not amazing, but this is, if you understand this, you understand GitOps. So first layer, it's the CRD. The second one, there are mandatory pieces you need to install on all cluster. It's kind of mandatory. And it's linked to like the basic requirements for any application that will be running on your cluster. So usually you probably have to provide a web application on the internet and with HTTPS. So HTTPS means a certificate. And for this one, it's a no-brainer. You will use a package that is called Cert Manager. So you install everything to manage certificates. It's very important. And for all people like me in the room, maybe you experience the issue of every year everything goes down because the certificate is expired. Well, it's not something that is not acceptable anymore in the 21st century, so 21st century. And there is everything to do it very easily with Kubernetes. The second one is Kubernetes. By default, nothing is saved. Kubernetes is container orchestration, and by default, when you run a container, it can update files, but it will be in the container. And the next time the container will restart, well, everything will be lost. So if you want to save data, you need to do it, you really need to define it. And also in your cluster, you need to define how to store the data, because by default, Kubernetes is a standard for everything. And by default, it doesn't ship. So like almost all distribution doesn't come with something to store data because it will depend on your infrastructure. And on this part, you need to install something. So we will install something very easily, but still we will be able to persist data. And the third one is like, it's not because you are using GitOps or you think your Git repositories are protected that you should put secrets. You should never put secrets in Git, whatever the reasons. And there are multiple ways to do it. So we will install something that is very easy to manage secrets. So off we go. Here, I'm going back from the command line. I will define everything for cert management and also so everything regarding certificates, then something for the storage, and then for the secret management. And on this part, here we just did some Git repository, so we can see that there are we've got the cert management, certificate management. I'm using Let's Encrypt, so it's something in the cloud, like a certificate issuer and the one able to authenticate it, validate it, certificate authority, sorry. And then we got something for personal storage, which is NFS provisioner. We got sealed secret for the secrets. So we have everything defined in Git. And then what we do is, again, we make the link in the GitOps tool. So we will do it from the command line. It's much easier to do it. And here, I can do what I like the most. I will look at what's happening, but I don't have to do anything. And we can see it's in red because you can see there is something missing, but it's on purpose because sometimes you will install something that is dependent on something else, and every GitOps tool has the same kind of requirements, dependency things, and it's very nice because you can also give some logic in the way you install things. You are not going to install something if you know that you need a requirement. And you can see everything is when, so I can trust it. This is also something I like with GitOps. You can trust it. You can see everything was managed correctly. So now we did the requirements, and finally we can install some web applications. So we are going to have some fun with, so there are 3 web applications I wanted to use. The first one is, well, you may be familiar if you did a Rancher Rodeo. It's an application I really like, very good. It's open source, so this is why I take the liberty to use it. So it's basically a web application, stateless, but it's good enough to show what GitOps is. And what you can see, so it's defined, not ready yet, but what I like to do, it's to look at the cluster events, because we can see everything's happening. And here we can see that we are the state where we define a certificate. Oh, sure, I will, if for the link to the lab, if we are not connected yet, please send me an invite on LinkedIn, and I will share it through a personal message, but I will show it to you. Just invite me and say hi, and I attended the event. I would like to play with the GitOps lab, and I will send you the link and the invitation. And we can see here it's done because it's an order done by cert manager, and it was completed. And the ingress was reloaded with a certificate. So now I can go on the page, and we can see it's a valid certificate, and I've got my application. And I've got, so it's doesn't seem like much, but it's great because here it's a web application, stateless, so nothing saved, sorry. But we can see we have 6 cows in green. So you may wondering, but what the heck with this? And if we go back at the definition, we can see that we are using, well, my Instruqt repository. We are using this code demo with the version, and we can see here that I specifically ask for 6 instances. So this application, what it does, it shows the containers running behind. So it's very interesting for a GitOps demonstration, and also in color green. So, and here, if you want, what we can do is I will show you how to make a change and see GitOps in direct, how we can do it. So what I will do, and I will event use, sorry. it's the tricky part. Just the copy paste is not. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I will like this. I will use my personal. So in this part, we could use it from the command line, but what I also want to show you, it's with Git, it's very, very massive. You need to be comfortable. So if you are comfortable with the command line, please go for it. On my side, I like to have a UI to do this, and I like to have a client, so not something linked to an IDE or something like this. So what I will use GitKraken. It's a tool I've been using for many years. It helped me a lot learning about Git, getting better about Git, making sure also I don't do anything stupid. So what I do here, I'm doing a clone. So I'm doing a clone locally. So obviously the demo effect. So what's wrong? Already exists. Yes. I forgot. I did try. So sorry about this. Up. So here you can see what I have is something actually that I can run on my machine. We can see all the changes. It's something also that is good with GitOps. I can see exactly what's happening. So if you at some point you have an issue, you can go back and see what was the changes. And also with the branches, you can make sure that when you make an upgrade, for example, you make some changes on pre-prod and you want to have it in prod, you can use Git like with a merge request or a merge or something linked to Git to make sure that you don't do any mistake. And what we'll do now is what I want to do, I want to have only 4 of them and I want them to be pink. So to make a change in my cluster, what I will only do is a change in a file and then on Git. So I save it. I do okay, update. Cause 4 and pink. So here it's a UI, but so I did the changes here. I will commit it. I will push it. Important. And then I can go back in my application and just wait. And hopefully it will work. But you can see I don't do anything. So you cannot see my hand, but I don't do anything. And it's a beauty. So it's not a push. So it doesn't mean that it will be like immediate. It's not what we want. We want something to be robust. But as you can see, I didn't do anything. I was speaking. And the GitOps tool saw the change, updated the state in Kubernetes, and now Kubernetes is doing what is expected. And the default behavior of Kubernetes, it's a rolling update, meaning that Kubernetes was also made to be IDE available. So we are not going to stop an application and start a new one, because there will be a downtime. And also potentially if there is an issue with a new application, well, there will be impact on the user. The default behavior is to start the new state, see if it's okay, and then remove it. And it's what we've seen. So it doesn't seem like much, but this is GitOps in a nutshell. So once I did the configuration and I have a Git repositories and I work on my Git repository and I'm done. And here, if I go back in my little ship, we can see we are green, so we are good to go. So I will go fast for the other one. The second one was WordPress. Which is interesting. It's and I can see like it's great because thanks to Git, I'm not going to override what I did. So it detected there was a change, so I'm doing a Git pull. So I'm making my code change. I'm installing my application, and I'm just doing things in advance because I was a little slow in the way I talked. So here, what I did is I defined two, and I can go back in GitKraken to see. So we've seen that I did a merge on this one. So if I go back and I do a pull, so I'm in the latest version, so I can see that I did a change to install an application that is called Sales Portal. It's something I created, so please Well, so the UI is not great, but it was a way to show a use case of multiple applications with microservices and MongoDB database, and also the use of OpenTelemetry. So you can see that in 46 lines, I'm able to define completely an application which has a web application, 2 microservices, and a database. So it's kind of crazy if you compare with the way to do this. I'm using a repository, I'm using a specific version, and here it's what is great, you can customize, and it's also the value of Helm. I do the customization, and it's a thing, because you are not going to have one environment, you will have multiple environments, and you can see that for my specific environment here, I can specify my URL and everything. So I can define the level of logs that I want to have. I can say if I want to use my own MongoDB or something else. And here it's enough to do everything. So it's kind of amazing, I think. Like, even if you are not a developer, it's something that is easy to automate and easy to understand. And the same, I also install WordPress. So I'm using the Bitnami chart, and I need to update it because soon I will have to change, but I'm using the Bitnami distribution of WordPress, and I can see that I'm able to configure it with, well, I do something I didn't say you should do, so please don't do this, don't do something like this, it's very bad. And if I was using Git Guardian, which I should, my commit would have rejected, but anyway, I wanted to go fast. And here, if I go back, I can see that it's still in yellow. It's on purpose. Sometimes it takes a little time to do the setup. For example, WordPress will use a MariaDB as a database, and it will do some minutes. So it's on purpose. Sometimes it can take time. So I can see like, oh, it's on the my application, and I can go inside and see like it's the MongoDB would take a little time to do it. But still, WordPress seems okay, so let's see what's happening. So certificate is not here, but soon it will be. So obviously take a little time because yeah, it's not immediate, and the containers need to be created and everything. And if you want to see what's happening, we can look at the events. Nice. So Bitnami did a change since last week. Perfect. Anyway, so I will use WordPress. So okay. Tac. And we can see we have a WordPress running, and the use case of WordPress is very important because here we do save data. It's not it's a stateful application, and we can see it in the storage. So we can see we have the like storage for MongoDB and MariaDB and WordPress, and it's working fine. So you can see that we use the stateless application, we use the stateful, and everything was okay. And so let's see next. So we've got web application, we've got it running, it's good, but it's not great because we don't have any security and observability. And the same, we are going to do it like the full GitOps way. Here, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the Git repo. Here we use an open source tool to do it, Zero Trust, something I like that is quite good, which is called NewVector. And time flies. So I will do also the observability part. And for this one, I'm using Grafana stack. So with Loki. Oops. And OpenTelemetry, which is great to make the link. Up. And now if we go back at the GitOps tool, which is kind of a control tower. So unfortunately for this demo, I need to change my case because the image I was using is not provided anymore by Bitnami, which is too bad. And then we can see that the observability and security stack are installing. And I don't know if you feel like this, but what I like also with, and it will be the same for the other tools, I have a clear vision on what's running and what is expected. Like it should be clear enough. You've got the different layers. So I started with Bootstrap, and then I did the infrastructure side, the business, and then observability and security. So basically, any kind of workload can be managed by GitOps, which is really cool. And the other cool stuff, I will just wait. Observability, so still installing. Just what I wanted to show, it's obviously it takes time. Still, it's not nothing magic. You will have to define these files, but with what is very great with the GitOps approach, it's not something you do it the right way, because like for example for the Grafana stack, if we look at this file was not easy to make for me, to be honest with you, because I was using OpenTelemetry and I was using all the components, and I didn't find something that was making all the configuration for me. So it took me some time to do it. But what is great with the GitOps way and to store it in Git, once I was able to make something work, I could in a very safe way deploy it in a new environment. And like today, I know it will work because it's something I was working before. So except like the issue with Bitnami images, but on this one, this is the beauty of this, because if you had to do this an experiment, if you do it on your machine and you have no way to be sure that it will work in production. Whereas if you do the GitOps way, you know, like if it's working in a dev environment, assuming you do things right with the configuration, it will work in pre-production and production. So it's a very safe way to manage upgrades. And something you can be shared, upgraded. And even for this, if I want to make a change, I will make a change, but if I break something, I can still go back and see what's happening. So this is something that is huge. And this one is for me the worst scenario. Like for Prometheus, to install it, you can see it's very easy. And even for OpenTelemetry collector, it's long, but it's on purpose because here you got the configuration. So this is really what I like. It's one way, easy way, efficient way to manage your workload. And we can see there is everything Grafana. Oops. And I've got Grafana running, and I kind of just did something in Git, and it's running fine. And I have, just before to conclude, yes, sometimes copy paste, it can be a full, and it's live, yeah, it's not recorded. And for example, yeah, you can see I've got some information, and I kind of didn't do anything particular. I just make the configuration. So this is what I really like about this approach. Anyway, I will upgrade the lab. So for those who want to test, you will see it will be working with my application. It's too bad that Bitnami removed the image I was using, but anyway. So I'm done with this, and just to let you know, in the lab, if you are courageous enough, on the last part there are two things. I just provide hints, but if you want to go further, you can install like a game that was quite nice at the time. So first on this part you can play with everything, so you got everything here, like guitar and everything. And there are two changes if you want to succeed, and I will be interested to know if you are able. So first one is very easy. It's to install a web application, which is the 2048 game. And the second one is to be able to create a GKE cluster with cluster API. So it's more advanced, but still very interesting to do. And I'm done with the lab. I'm sorry for the issue with the image. Yeah, I really thought it would be working. And if I go back in my presentation, just to conclude, and if you want to, if you have a question, like we got five minutes, I will be very happy to answer any question. Just before to conclude, what is really great with GitOps, and maybe because it's I'm a solution architect because I like this, but it's very often it's very complicated to know what's running on your environments. Every time I join the company, I ask, okay, can you point me to the documentation or whatever to know what's running? And usually it's not up to date. Most of the time it's not very easy to access, or it's not complete. What I really like with GitOps is the other way around. You can have a blueprint from GitOps, because if we look at what we did, so we started with a fresh cluster with nothing in it. The first thing we did the Bootsrap with the CRDs. Then we installed the infrastructure components. We installed our business application with also dependencies. It's something we can do in another layer if we wanted. I was kind of lazy, but it could be a good practice to have another layer for data storage, databases. And then we added the security. Obviously, you really need to do it. I don't know if you saw yesterday, yet another issue with security issues with NPM packages. So security is a must-have. And then observability. You need to know what's running. You need to be able to investigate. You need to be also have alerts if something bad. And basically, this is kind of a blueprint of your cluster. So if you are audited, I don't know, your CTO is wondering what's running on your clusters, here you got your blueprint. And this will be a blueprint that will evolve over time. And you know exactly what's running. You can make upgrades. So it's something there is no question marks. You know exactly what's running. So you can control everything regarding the version, the quality, the security, vulnerabilities, and you can observe everything. So this kind of, you have like the state of the art, relatively easy thanks to the GitOps approach. Whereas if you didn't have GitOps in a cloud native pool way to do this, it's not easy, really not easy. Whereas here you got so. To be fair, it's in a Git repository, but as you've seen in the UI, Rancher UI, and also in Git, well, there is you know exactly what's inside. So it's very easy to do this. And just before we go, just to be clear on the approach, GitOps is really, really part of your DevOps journey. It's one of the elements. And DevOps is really focusing on delivering new features, focusing on the user experience, the way user like your tools, user adoption. But DevOps is really a journey. So given where you are, there are different steps. You may be at the first steps, which is just to version what you do. Then you can start building CI/CD pipelines, start automating, start industrializing, and then you can get better at it. So doing automated testing, doing scanning, and then going ever further with optimization. And for me, GitOps is really in this part. It means that you are already good with CI/CD, with infrastructure management, with ideally cloud native, Kubernetes, and with security. So it's not something that can be started right away. And even if you are at the first step, it's okay. The very important thing is to be in a continuous improvement mindset. It's much better to be in the first step if you are in this mindset that whereas thinking that okay, you are done with it and you are don't want to evolve. But it's still advanced, so there are steps to reach GitOps. Obviously, you cannot start it like this, but it doesn't mean to be long or whatever, and you can help from external people. And just to let you know, the last step, it's kind of using AI, using crazy stuff. But it's really a journey. But GitOps will help you a lot in this journey if you do this. And that's it for me. So if you don't have any question, thank you very much.